Kicked off, brilliant. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. So this is the release webinar for the next author release, 2026 R1, the one that's coming up. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's nice to see some really familiar names in there, including some people I've spoken to on community. As you likely know, I'm Jamie Simmonds, the documentation manager here at Author-It. I'll be joined today by a couple of other Author-It staff who you might be familiar with. There's Peter Vullings and also Abe Chokshi. Abe will be taking care of the Q&A feature today, so we do have a Q&A. Please feel free to submit questions. Abe will be curating them, so if they take a second to come through, don't panic. They will show up eventually. Right, let me just fire up the slides. Great. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see those slides all good, Pete? Awesome. All right, let's kick it off. All right, first, so here's what we're going to talk about today. These are obviously the highlights for the next release. The first 5, they apply to everyone, whether you're using Author-It Cloud or Author-It on-premises. They'll be of relevance to you. The last 2, those really only apply if you use Author-It Cloud. If you are an Author-It on-premises user and you want to leave after your kind of bits are done, fair enough. We have no problem with that. You're quite welcome to. I will try and answer questions at the end of each section after each point as they come up, just to make that easier. But if we don't have time, there's also a Q&A section at the end where I can cover off anything we haven't managed to answer yet. Right. So the first thing I want to cover today is Author-It's first foray into the world of LLMs and AI. AION, as in AI JSON, it's our first entry into that world, as I say. Before I continue, we don't mind how you say it. You can pronounce it any way you like. You'll probably hear me say a few different ways today, AION, AION, etc., depending on what I want to emphasize. That bit we really don't care about. Feel free to use whatever's comfortable. So what AION is essentially it's a type of JSON that describes the contents of a book. So right now, if you want to reveal some of your content in your Author-It library to an LLM, you can do so through things like PDF, but all of the kind of metadata and relational information is not exposed, right? Which means you can't really ask questions that are quite Author-It specific, like whether you've used the appropriate templates or how much reuse there is. AION hopes to fix that. AION, it's a type of JSON that describes the content of a book, basically, and that JSON can be passed on to other systems such as LLMs or actually document retrieval and indexing systems as well. The JSON includes details for the publishing job that created the JSON file, the subbooks and topics inside the book, the complete and resolved text content of the topic, and that's formatted using Markdown. Markdown is a very friendly kind of format for LLMs. And critically, it also has key metadata about the published book and topics within it. That includes the topic IDs, the descriptions that you use in your library, the templates that it uses, and also the object hierarchy and folders. Just a quick note here, if when you start using AION, you find any metadata is missing that could be useful for your organization or your particular use cases, please do get in touch. This is a rapidly shifting area and we're eager to make these files as useful as possible and to continue to evolve them to your needs. So we provided AION files to various LLMs and we've gotten some great results asking for things like assessing the level of reuse between 2 or more books, assessing tone and style against the Microsoft Style Guide. So we provided the Microsoft Style Guide as part of those requests to the LLM. You could provide your own. And also assessing tone and style and consistency between 2 different books. So like publishing 2 different books to AION and saying, how consistent are these 2 books in style and tone? If you're using a document retrieval or indexing system for retrieval augmented generation, RAG, which is very popular right now, particularly in the kind of technical documentation communities, you can supply the AION files to those systems as well. the additional metadata contained in the files, such as the topic templates, it assists basically in the retrieval, in those document retrieval or indexing systems retrieval, without overwhelming the system with irrelevant data. All right, so this next bit, I'm just going to show you how to create some AION files, and then afterwards we're actually going to put them to the test with Claude Code. So creating AION files is very easy. Literally create a publishing profile or open an existing one, drag that over, change your publishing format to resolved XML, and then there's a post-publishing action called transform RXML to JSON. And you just add that. At the moment, AION's the only JSON type you can pick, so you don't need to worry about that too much. In the future, we think we will be adding more for different use cases. And then just give it whatever file name you want. You can use variables, and I'm going to do that to give it the same name as the published output. I can't quite remember what variable that is, but luckily we have an error message that will tell you. Sys publish base name, that's what I want. Then I want that to be .json. Cool, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Once that's done, you just publish your book to that format. And I've actually done that earlier. So here's those 3 books you see on screen. And if I download one, I can show you the zipped output and where that file lives. I may have one I prepared earlier actually that I can just to avoid that download hang that's happening in our RC environment for some reason. Here we go. So that's those 3 published outputs, and if you open them up, there's the zips that I got, and this is unzipped. And as we'd expect, there's the JSON file. So I actually downloaded these earlier and set up a Claude Code kind of project with them. If you've not heard of Claude Code, it's basically an LLM that's specifically configured for assessing code and helping developers do their job. I used it for this because since JSON is kind of a code-like output, we found it's gotten good results. Probably slightly better than Copilot in my opinion, although Copilot was still worth it. And I'm going to hit enter on this live. In my last test, it took around 4 minutes to resolve, and there was a lot of hitting enter and giving it permission to do things. In part, that's because this is a demo. To be honest, in the real world, you're likely to set up some automated publishing. So you'll set up your publishing profile to produce your AION outputs and then automatically send it probably to a web server or some sort of said location. And if you use Claude Code for this, you'll set up its permissions a bit more thoroughly so that it's not always asking you to give them manually. But for demo purposes, I think this works well enough. And just while we wait, I'll see if there's any Q&A questions I can perhaps answer.
There's nothing in there, yeah.
Nothing in there yet? Oh, okay. That makes my life easy. I will admit this will be the driest part of the presentation, perhaps, but I really do want to demonstrate this live, right? I want you to see it and know that in real time. If you do have any questions, definitely now is the time to put something in that QA. Okay. I would have expected that to move on to the next message by now. Possibly because I'm sharing a screen. Oh, there we go. Allow once. Okay, I think because I'm sharing my screen, these commands are running a little bit slower even than I would have expected. I would have expected a few more to come down. But that makes sense. I've had plenty of times to test this, but not while sharing a presentation. I might just take it off to the side and we can come back to it a bit later. All right, before I move on, a quick note. Obviously, giving these files to an LLM and also using them for document retrieval for RAG are the two use cases we've thought of. But JSON has a really wide amount of uses on the internet and that sort of thing. It's used by many applications and processes. Your imagination really is the limit for this. If you can think of other ways that AION could be useful, please try it. And if you think it's something that could be useful to the community, we'd love to hear from you. Oh, we've got a question. Let me read that. Okay, I'm going to prove that because that looks like a good question. Got one here from Malik. If I understand correctly, what Jamie is demonstrating could help us to optimize our content to an ideal reuse plus help with review formatting to achieve uniformity, perhaps importing content as well. Yeah, pretty much. The import stage might be a little bit tricky because I don't think we can import JSON into an authorit library, but certainly achieving uniformity, definitely. Once this Claude Code thing resolves, I'll show you the three books or the contents of them that I had to assess and what level of reuse they had. Basically, I've given it 3 books that obviously the test data, but still, 2 of them have a very high level of reuse, and then the third has identical text, but it's different topics. And what you should see is Claude that basically will identify that and say, yeah, here's the opportunities where you could be reusing topics instead of duplicating them. Right. So our next big innovation for 2026 R1 is the addition of a new post-publishing action. As you can see on the slide, it is HTTP post. So lots of third-party platforms have API endpoints that you can post files to. Fluid Topics is one of them, but there are many, many others. This publishing action lets you send published outputs and potentially other files if you want to use it that way, directly to those destinations. So for example, Fluid Topics has an upload endpoint that you can send a file to and it will display on your website through them. This action would let you send such a file to them. You can add it to any publishing profile. So it doesn't need to be resolved XML or XML or anything in particular. It could be new Word, could be PDF Pro CSS, could be whatever. And it just sends a post request to a target URL. The post request does need to contain a file. That is the purpose of this particular after publish action. So it must contain one. And obviously, being a post request sending to a URL, it does require internet access. If you're an authorit on-premises user who's perhaps a bit more locked down in their environment, you don't have internet access, then this is probably not something you'd be able to make use of. This action is going to be great for this kind of new feature is going to be great for cutting down on the amount of times you need help from us if you're an authorit cloud user. You won't need custom integrations or uploads anymore. You can just set it up immediately and get results. And for authorit on-premises users as well, there'll be no more need for complex after publishing scripts or external systems outside of authorit, right? No longer will you have to kind of call a script that does HTTP post for you. It's all just inside the software, and that kind of reduces configuration complexity. Just a quick limitation note, and actually I might display this one visually. All right. So this is HTTP post here, the action in action. You just add it by clicking that, and I've got one here already that's actually set up to go to our Fluid Topics UAT website. A quick little note on a limitation on this. So you can have as many headers as you like. You can see I've got an authorization header here, but those headers must be static. Some websites, they require dynamic headers for you to, dynamic headers. This only supports static ones. That said, while that does eliminate some common locations, there are still many, many, many that are available to you. All right, awesome. Before I move on, are there any more questions in review? No, just Malix. Great. All right, so next feature is a much needed upgrade to Word imports. Word imports, they now actually harness the same technology New Word uses to publish Word documents. It's basically New Word importing, but don't worry, we're not calling that it's just Word importing. Word imports are now much faster. That is the end result. And you don't need to change any of your configuration to get that benefit. Your current import rules and import profiles will work just fine. Word documents are very complex, we will admit that though, and because of that we have added a transition period between this kind of upgrade in tech and the older one. And during that time you can toggle between the two methods if you have kind of a niche scenario that encounters an unexpected result. If you're an Author on-premises customer, you can swap at any time. It's just a toggle inside of Author Administrator. If you're a cloud customer, you'll be automatically changed over to the new method in 2026 R1, the upgraded Word imports, and you'll just submit a ticket with us if you want to go back to the legacy one for some reason. Right. Still no more questions. Awesome for me. Right, we've also put in custom search separators for LUNR search. So if you produce Magellan help centers, LUNR search is the default search engine that is used for Magellan. There is also another one that's available, Elastic, but you have to configure that. Currently, LUNR uses spaces and hyphens as search term separators. Search term separators, they control how search engines break down search terms. So if you've got a word and then a space and then another word, it will see that there's a space and give you two different search terms. If you remove the space, then you'll have a single search term as if that was one word. LUNR uses both spaces and hyphens right now. From 2026 R1, you can actually use your theme.config file to specify any search term separators that you like. You can be literally any characters. Hyphens and spaces will always be used. Can't change that. You can have any on top. Could be special symbols like periods or commas. Could be letters for some reason if you want to do that, although we anticipate that probably wouldn't be the case. This is really useful if you have a Magellan website with product numbers or software versions or codes, basically any identifier that your website visitors might not know the full string for. For example, and I'll use our DevDocs website to demonstrate this. So for example, your website might have codes like this one here, but the only thing your customers might know might be this bit here, or maybe the second bit. At the moment, since this is all considered one search term, because the period says that this separating it is not a space or a hyphen, if your customers search for this, just ZOI, ZOI 1234 will not appear. LUNR is looking for this exact kind of phrase. Okay, but if you're in this situation from 2026 R1 onwards, you can open up your theme.config file, specify that periods count as search separators, and now this string will appear if your customers search for this, ZOI, or just 1234, or the whole thing. Any of those will get the results you need, right? As I say, very, very useful for software versions or manufacturing codes or anything where you think maybe your customers, how you've found visitors don't know this whole string. Got some new questions.
Yes. So there's a good one around fluid topics.
Just my curiosity about the team is auto-publishing directly from author it, no additional steps needed. Yeah, correct. So we're actually doing that today. We're fully automatically publishing from author it. So I click publish, it's just uploaded to our website. Today, to do that, we actually have to, so I'll just go back a couple. Here we go. We're actually doing that today, but at the moment we use an external script. So we have a post-publishing action that calls a script in a third location, and then that script runs and that automates the upload, right? But I have tested it in a QA just using HTTP post, so no need to maintain a script somewhere else that you may or may not even be able to see, and the post action just works directly. Significantly less complex configuration. If you are publishing to Fluid Topics now from 2026 R1, setting up automated uploads will be quite easy, and we'll make sure there's some instructions in our KC to help you out with that. All right, cool. New word enhancements. So in 2026 R1, there will be some new word enhancements. We've nearly reached parity with legacy word. In fact, from 2026 R1, we'll pretty much be there. So they're definitely not as exciting as the enhancements in the last release. There's nothing quite as big as the word macro support that we put in, say. But these are still good, right? We now have support for repeat heading rows for tables, for example. So that's just where a table stretches across multiple pages. You can now force the heading row to appear at the top of the table on each page. We have some bug fixes for cross-references, particularly internet URLs, where before the description for the internet URL wouldn't appear and that sort of thing. So we've got some fixes for that. Please check the release notes for full details. We've changed the way that table indents work to be more in line with legacy Word. So now tables will be indented to the same level as the previous paragraph. We know many of you have setups where you'll have kind of a dummy paragraph with a style such as table indent, and there'll maybe table indent 2 centimeters and table indent 5 centimeters, whatever you need. Now New Word will respect that. So if you've got a paragraph with a particular indent and then a table immediately after it, the table will follow the indent as well. And you can also publish your glossary terms unsorted. So in the current release, 2025 R4, glossary terms are always sorted alphabetically, regardless of what configuration you have for the glossary object and author it. In 2026 R1, that configuration will now be reflected in the final output. So if you clear the sort alphabetically checkbox and you want to sort it manually for whatever reason, New Word will respect that. Please remember support for legacy Word is ending in 2026 R1, and the ability to publish to legacy Word will be completely removed from Author Cloud at least in 2026 R2. So certainly if you've not made that transition yet, now is the time.
There was a question around variable search. So can we search variables in Magellan?
Will variable values be searched as well? Was that in the context of Magellan?
I would think so. Yeah.
It depends, Thomas, on actually let's hit publish first so everyone else can see it. So let's go back to LUNR.
As per my understanding, it's actually just the output that we publish, and at that point it's just resolved, and the search term contains what you're searching for, then it should work.
Yeah, it's a good question though, Thomas, or perhaps Tomas, judging by the last name. That said, if you want, so today in Magellan, you can actually add variables as metadata to your topics, and Magellan can search on that. We have a KC topic that describes exactly how to do it. Let me just find it for you. Here we go. So I'll just share that with you. But this works in Magellan, right? If you've got variables as metadata on a topic, you can they will be searchable in Magellan. Great question, though. All right, so Claude Cowork has actually finished that analysis. So before we move on to the section to the features in 2026 R1 that are really only applied to Author Cloud, I want to go back to this and briefly visit it. So the two books that I asked Claude Code to review, there were three books, two that were pretty much identical, just with a product name changed, and then a third that had identical text but used completely different topics, right? A bit of a nightmare scenario for someone, for a library administrator. And I'll quickly show you what I mean. So opening on my main screen. So we got the X1000 teleportation device, and then the X2001. And these are exactly the same, except when I publish, product will resolve to whatever the product name is. And some topics have variants that go to a 2001 thing, 2001 variant in the 2001 book. I've deliberately put in a mistake, which we'll see if the AI LLM will pick up. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I've put the X1000 book in twice, but otherwise everything is reused. And then we've got the X3001 that is identical right up until getting started, pretty much, but it uses different topic IDs. So you can see the copyright there is 410 for the code, whereas here it's 782. And so our hope is that the LLM will tell us, hey, you've done really well on the X1000 and the X2001, but for the X3001, you've duplicated all these objects and there's an opportunity for reuse there. All right, it's gotten the topic counts correct. So I've checked those ahead of time. It's 51 and 12 is right. It's correctly identified that there are no topics shared across all three books. I did expect 48 to be shared between them, and two there, and yep, the 3001 has 12 unique topics. That's all correct. So they've again given me a full topic table. Obviously, today we don't have time to check whether all of these topic IDs are correct. Certainly, the previous times I've run before this demo, they have been. And it tells us that, yep, it's in the 1000, it's in the 2001, but not the 3001, and gives us a category. And then as we scroll down, we can see a whole bunch of ones that are unique in the X3001. Key findings, it's identified that they share the same topic ID, but also that they're actually in the right folders as well. So it's identified the X3001 has 0 topics shared between them, and all of its topics are stored in a separate folder compared to the 1000 and 2001, and that's because that folder information is actually in the ION file. Suggestions to improve reuse, so it's identified that the copyright topic, 782 in the first two books and 410 in the last, has identical text, so that could just be reused. Worked out the same for unpacking a teleportation device, same for getting started. It's even identified that installing the X3001 software could use a different topic and just replace it with a variable, because only a few little bits of text are different. What's extraordinary about that is that I have not actually explained to Claude Code what the concept of a variable is. It can see that there are variable values at the top of the file that are declared. So it can see the X3001, the product variable equals X1000, but I've not hooked it up to our knowledge base or anything like that to tell it what a variable is. This is just something it's figured out. And this goes on for a while, and then it says some less common. It identifies the 3001 as missing common content entirely, content that could be reused from the other books, and that's not even something I asked it to do necessarily. And it's even identified that I've incorrectly put some X1000 topics in the X2001 and that I need to update them. pretty encouraging results. I will download this or create a copy of this and make it available for you guys along with the AION files if we like, so you can go through them yourself. But hopefully you can see how that could be put to use in your own libraries to kind of assist with reuse, basically. All right, what is next? Actually, I'll just check if there's any questions before we continue. Any in review? Great, I can move on. All right, so these last two couple are the changes in 2026 R1 which are relevant to cloud only. And the first is that we've now made some after publishing actions editable in Author at Cloud. So throughout this presentation, you would have noticed that I was opening publishing profiles in here and adding some of the post-publishing actions that I was talking about. This is an Author at Cloud. This is an Author at on-premises that I'm using, and I don't have any special permissions or anything. All of those actions are editable for any library administrator. If you can open the object and modify it, you can modify these actions yourself. And that's a big change, obviously, from the current release of Author at Cloud, where you can't do that ever. The specific actions that you can create, edit, or move are the zip files action, the file transfer action that lets you SFTP or FTP a file, and the two new publishing actions, post-publishing actions, so transform RXML to JSON and HTTP post. But yeah, everything that you've seen me do today with HTTP post and transform RXML to JSON, editing them and moving them around, you can do that. As slide number 3 there says, we anticipate it's going to put more power in your hands and basically just let you do things quicker. Instead of asking us to edit certain actions or requiring help from author-it to post something or transfer a file, you can just do it immediately. There's also some updates to author new mode. The application timeout is being extended to 60 minutes. That's actually occurred already. That's already live. And publishing jobs will also appear in the correct order on the publishing page. So there was a bug in R4 that caused publishing jobs to appear in the incorrect order. We've fixed that for R1. There are quite a few more changes coming in 2026 R2. 2025 R4 for new mode has really been about gathering feedback and seeing what changes we need to make. And R2 is definitely going to implement quite a few more of those. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add on that author new mode. We are still looking to gather more feedback around author new mode. So we would encourage all users in your company to use it and suggest, raise, investigate, or reach out to us directly with any questions or issues that you find, and that will help us make it better in general. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, we always appreciate that feedback. That's actually it for the webinar, and I don't see any more questions coming through. So I guess we might as well wrap up there. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evenings or mornings or whatever time zone you may be in to take part, and we look forward to seeing you next time.